Okay, hi guys. What's up? It's your girl Mo. We're back with another episode. I feel like it's been a little minute. Um, and yeah, I missed you guys. I hope y'all have missed, the pod. I only took like a month and change off. It wasn't like too long, but that's longer than I usually do to record. But we're back with a new episode and a very special guest. We have Jaytaun in the building.
Peace.
Thank you for joining me.
I'm grateful.
Yeah.
So we can before we get started, we could do a meditation live.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool
Let's do it.
for the viewers. So let's just sit up with our back straight.
Okay.
If you feel safe enough in this moment, I just want you to close your eyes.
Okay.
Allow the worry to kind of just leave the space.
Mm-hmm.
Bring your attention and your awareness to your breath. Just let the breath be natural. Just noticing the breath right now. Noticing what kind of thoughts may be occupying the mind. Noticing what you're feeling. Let's just put those aside, similar to our cell phones. Let's just set those thoughts and those emotions to the side. Let's just be present. We're going to take a deep inhale through the nose and a deep exhale through the mouth. We're going to try that 2 more times. Deep inhale through the nose. Deep exhale. One last time, deep inhale. Hold it, deep exhale. And when you feel ready, just slowly open your eyes. Kind of just change the energy.
Wow. No, that was crazy.
Change the energy in the room just to invite God in, so we could just have a truthful conversation, an honest conversation, a peaceful conversation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that.
No problem.
Yeah. How did you guys feel about that? That was cool, right?
We just quiet the city. We in the city. It's just like, hold up. We just changed.
Yeah.
Just changed the atmosphere. And that's truly like, that's why I appreciate breath work, right? Because we live so much in the future. We live so much in our past.
Mm-hmm.
But the breath is always present, right? Regardless if it's happening subconsciously or it's happening consciously.
Yeah.
You can only breathe now. You can't save your breath.
Right.
So when you bring your awareness and your attention back to your breath, you become present and everything else doesn't matter just for that moment. And it just seemed like the atmosphere just changed that fast.
Yeah. No, that was great. And I feel like I've meditated before. And every time I feel like I have like a different experience with it, but it's usually good. Like I never have any complaints with it. I know like I have some friends who like they're like it doesn't work for me. Like, but for me, that works.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the perception of how we look at it, right? So if it can be a conscious practice, it can be a spiritual practice,
Yeah.
it could be a focused practice, right? So just simple, when somebody say meditation doesn't work, does that mean it doesn't work, or are they perceiving it to do something? Because ideally all it does is bring you into this present moment.
Yeah.
Just observe, just be aware, just be conscious. It's just like, I look at it like when I just was teaching at a school the other day, and I looked at it like a mental hygiene practice, right? We never say, brushing my teeth doesn't work for me.
Right.
It's just a non-negotiable.
For sure.
You get what I'm saying? This is how we clean our mouth.
Yep.
So what are the things and what are the tools that we do to clean our minds? And meditation is just one of those great tools that can help. So it's just changing our perception on it, right?
Yeah.
And looking at it different versus trying to make it work or trying to feel something. It's just being aware, being present,
Yeah.
and just noticing what's happening. That's meditation.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. Thank you. I love that. And that was a first, right? Like we debriefed a little bit beforehand, and I've never had like, I've never done something like that before, like starting the show. So I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay. So Yeah, I want us to just get into like normally I start the show with just like a check-in, right? Well, even before the check-in, like introduce you like more just like thoroughly, right? Like who is Jaytaun or Taun, whichever one you want to
Jaytaun. You can
Jaytaun.
say my first
Right,
name,
right,
first name.
Jaytaun.
Jaytaun.
Yeah. And
Um,
who are you? What do you do? Like what do you want the audience to know about you before we start? Get
um,
get into it.
what comes to mind is I'm a father,
Mhm.
I'm a husband, I'm a family man, and I'm just truly a man of the people.
Yeah.
Just utilizing the tools for the last 13 plus years. I've been developing programs that's centered around wellness, mindfulness, mental health, utilizing the tools of yoga, meditation, and conversation to truly just develop who I am as a person and just allow that to spill into the world, just seeing a better version of myself to create a better world.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing for the last 13 years. That allowed me to teach in schools, that allowed me to teach with different corporations, that allowed me to travel the world
Mhm.
and just really meet different communities and build connections to really create a peaceful atmosphere, but growth and a growth and evolving environment,
Yeah,
based on the ones that I was used to growing up.
for sure. I love that. And I definitely want to get into like what got you started on that like that journey of like being like a mental health and wellness like curator, right? Because that's essentially how we met, right? Because I
Mhm.
joined this run club and we're gonna get into that.
We're gonna get into that.
Right? Which is another community, right? Which like you lead, I would say. Like you're one of the people who kind of make it what it is. So like yeah, I love that. And you've been doing it for a long time, right?
Uh, I've been running, I think I've been running because I've been an athlete for a while, but I've
Yeah.
been running seriously for the last 4 years.
Okay.
But what really got me started just in the mental health and the wellness and the yoga space was when I was 19, I think I was in a, I don't think I know, I was in a truly tough time,
Mhm.
depression, anxiety, frustration. So the practice kind of found me. But
Yeah.
before we get to that was like, after high school, I went to college.
Mhm.
My college experience was horrible. I was so lost. I was so confused. And it was the first time that for most of my life, I was playing sports.
Yeah.
By the time I got on a college level, the dream kind of died out.
Mhm.
And then I wasn't inspired to go to school anymore. Most of my friends, they wasn't in school. Nobody was there to truly push me or to really support me in that way. So I withdrew it from college, and then after that, I was just truly lost. I was hanging outside, I was drinking. I didn't know if I was coming or going, and my life was spiraling,
Mhm.
and it was like nothing.
Yeah.
It was nothing. So then my friend, he was working a summer youth program and he got tricked into doing yoga.
Mm.
And then he brought us along. And then for the first time, I started to develop this self-awareness, this confidence, and this inner peace within myself. And I
Yeah.
started to gain confidence again. I started to gain like the will to be better, to
Yeah.
not do. And from there, that's how it kind of started.
Mhm. No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
And I think that's amazing that like you didn't come from what it sounds like, you didn't come from like an environment where like other people were like, "Yeah, I'm going to college." So I'm
No.
curious what made you decide to go to college?
So I grew up in Baisley Projects.
Mhm.
That's a projects in Queens. So most of my life I've seen destruction
Mhm.
firsthand, right? So ultimately, you have a choice. When you grow up in these hoods, you have three choices: music, drugs, sports.
Okay.
Those are the choices that we're narrowed down to.
Mhm.
So I was somewhat good in basketball. Basketball was my first therapy.
Okay.
It was my way to not deal with my emotions or my reality or my circumstance. It was the first, every time I played basketball, I was free of those things.
Yeah.
I was free of the trauma from my environment. I was free of the abuse or just the visualization of seeing drugs, seeing murder, just seeing all of these things. So I really use basketball as a coping mechanism. I
Yeah.
just played, I practiced, I played.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a safe space for me.
Yeah.
You know, using the language, that was a safe space. I had to be to practice, you know, I had to train.
Mm-hmm.
I had a dream, I had a goal,
Yeah.
and I was pursuing that.
Okay.
So I didn't never really deal with the emotions of anger, frustration, loss, environment, all of these things that plague you
Mm-hmm.
until I became 19.
Got it.
And then I lost sports.
Got it.
And then now I'm looking at my world, and now I'm looking at my reality. And it felt like the community caught me.
Mm.
For a while, I was playing basketball and I was ahead of the community.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when I'm not playing basketball, there's no dream, there's no career, it's it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I result back into the community.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm doing all the things that I have no business doing. I'm drinking, I'm entertaining, I'm abusing,
Mm-hmm.
just sex, just looking for desire,
Mm-hmm.
escape mechanisms.
Yeah.
You know, so that, and then from 19, it transitioned. Then, like I shared earlier, my friend had got tricked into doing yoga, and I started practicing, and I just started to really feel what was happening to me on an internal level. A light was sparking.
Yeah.
I started to become alive. You
Love
know, I started to feel this, and then eventually I started practicing, and then I wanted to bring it back to my neighborhood, and that's how I started teaching.
it. Yeah.
You know,
That's dope.
mm-hmm.
I love that story. And I think it's inspiring because and I just feel like, I mean, like in the Black and brown communities, I feel like people don't look like nor carry the things that they may have gone through or experienced, like as you know, spoke about, like just trauma or just seeing things,
Yeah.
you know, that like people shouldn't see at such an early age, right?
Right.
And I definitely want to get into a little bit more about that, like just trauma, right?
Yeah.
In our community. Like what would you say is, like, you know, with you even saying like music, sports, and what was the third thing? I know you said is
Drugs.
drugs,
Those
right?
those in most Black and brown communities,
Mhm.
inner city communities, those are the three.
Yeah.
Those are the three that we feel that will drive us out of this community.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And how would you say, like somebody who is coming from a similar background, right? Like, what are some ways to better cope or even deal with what they may be exposed to or what they may be seeing in the community?
You have to develop a will, and you have to be strong to. It depends, right? So some ways to cope is
Like outside of those three things, because
outside of those three things: exercise, eating healthy, and just truly being mindful and developing a will to listen to that internal self or that higher seeking,
yeah,
what can be God, developing a faith, a
mm-hmm.
strong faith, understanding what's wrong, what's right.
Yeah,
Because what happens is we see the wrong so much that we normalize it.
Yeah.
And then eventually, even if we know it's wrong, we still don't denounce it. So not just from an external, not from an external position, just from my position.
Yeah.
It was a point of time I knew what the activities that I was participating in was wrong. I knew what the people that I was around doing was wrong. At some point, I'm held accountable. If I can't change my environment, I have to change my environment. So you have to separate. You have to be willing to leave those things behind to not be contaminated by them.
Yeah.
You know, so seeking out different communities, exploring, learning to travel, you know. So I think another thing, the best thing you can do is see beyond your community.
For sure.
If you want to help your community, you have to see beyond it.
Yes. I agree. I agree. Fire. Those were gems. I hope y'all are taking notes.
Like it was just something simple. Like I was just telling my friend, right? I'm like, we stayed in the hood all day, but nobody stopped us from going to Central Park. Right? It's just a train. But that's just not having the cognitive information to say we don't even have to be here.
Right.
We can get on a train and travel and see different things.
Yes.
You know, so I bet when you young, I think it's important that travel the city. So, for example, if you live in Queens, travel to the city.
Yeah.
Travel to different boroughs. Explore New York City
Yes.
beyond your block.
Absolutely.
And you'll get a
Absolutely.
different atmosphere. You'll get a different environment. You'll get a different mindset. Like, oh, okay, this is only happening over here.
Yeah.
They're not doing that over there.
Mhm.
Then you start to develop and enhance, and you see something beyond your community.
Yeah.
And that allows you to grow or even get you or even spark some inspiration.
It's so true. That's so true. No, thank you for sharing that. And I think something else that you said, right, that I thought was really interesting is that, like, some of the things that you were doing, like, you know, in your environment, in your community growing up in the hood, right? You knew were wrong. You knew it was wrong. How did you know it was wrong? Like, what was the indicator, like, I should not be doing this? Because I don't know that everybody always has that, like, internal thing that tells them that sometimes, especially if that they're not exposed to anything else. So how did you know? Like,
I just always had, it was always this intuitive feeling within me
yeah.
of I've never fully let my innocence go.
Okay.
So even though I was from the hood, I never proclaimed it, right?
Got it.
As being this. And there was moments to where I probably was participating deeply. For example, we're going to speak about trauma. At 11 years old, my stepfather was murdered. Not only did he get murdered, I seen the body out of my window after. Not only did I see the body out of my window, I seen the response of what it did to my mom. I seen my mom broken. I seen her. You know, I always have this image of my mother on the front of the paper. She was torn. She was crying. And they captured that footage. And that built so much anger, so much resentment, so much hurt.
Yeah.
That from 11 till about 24, I carried that. And the dangerous thing about trauma is you experience a traumatic situation once. That trauma becomes internal.
Yeah.
And you keep reliving it over and over and over the more you think about it. So the experience happened when I was 11, but you keep reliving it and you don't have the tools, you don't have the coping mechanism.
Right.
Because everybody that you're around and everybody that's in the environment are processed in a certain way. We may lean towards alcohol. We may lean towards drugs. We may lean towards partying and escaping. We've never been taught how to truly cope.
Yeah.
Or even be vulnerable enough to deal with the things that's hurting you inside.
For sure.
Even I've learned that, like I also wrote a book and I learned that from my mom, right? And in my book, I put that every time I would ask my mom what's wrong when I was a child, she had this mechanism of, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
And even though things may have gotten good, we've never truly was able to discuss what's happening. So what happens is I've adopted that mechanism.
Yeah.
So when my wife or somebody would ask me early on in a relationship, I wouldn't open up.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good. I'm good. I'm torn inside. But I've only known how to just, take it, carry it.
For sure.
That's yours.
Yeah.
Until I've learned how to take it off, put it down, express it, be free.
Yeah.
And that's just the shift.
No, thank you so much for sharing that.
No problem.
And I'm definitely, like, sorry that, like, you experienced that loss.
It's cool. There's it used to hurt me, but there's no mistakes. And it needed to happen to me at the time it happened to me because it did something for me. It allowed me to always think beyond my circumstances. Right. So me experiencing that loss so young allowed me to have a blueprint of what not to do because of this may happen.
Right.
So I've never fully dived into the streets in a way that I couldn't remove myself.
For sure.
Because of that early experience.
Yeah.
I knew the end game. I know how it ends. And the fact that I was able to see the end at such a young age, it protected me. So every loss is not a loss, it becomes a lesson. And I took the lesson in that. At times it hurt.
Yeah.
At times I didn't know how to deal with it. At times I was angry, frustrated, resentful, revengeful,
Yeah.
but eventually I didn't respond or react on those emotions, and I've made it here,
Yeah.
you know? So
Mhm.
we here to speak about it. We here to allow people to know that it's okay to speak about it. It's okay to even forgive. You
Yeah.
know, it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to seek help or to really put things down. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
move on. It's time. It's time to let that go.
For
It's time to
sure.
let that part of my life go.
For
And
sure.
and being okay with that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. So do you feel like you did that? Like you were able
Yes.
to?
Yes. And just you know how you know when you forgive?
Mhm.
Because you can speak about the experience and it doesn't weigh that much.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be able to speak about it. For years, I didn't speak about it.
Yeah.
For years, I didn't express the anger. For
Yeah.
years, I didn't tell nobody to hurt.
For sure.
I just lived with it. And then it just ate me alive until you just pull that boogeyman
Mhm.
out. And it's like, nah, you can't live here no more. You've
Yeah.
been living here rent free for a while. And it's
Mhm.
okay, you know.
Mhm.
We're gonna take some losses, right? And I'm not the only one,
Yeah.
you know. So just being able to say, like, I forgive that person, I forgive that circumstance, I forgive that experience because there's so much more to my life.
Mhm.
There's so much more to us. And I can't carry that where I'm going.
Yeah. No, that was good.
Mhm.
Wow, thank you so
No
much.
problem.
Yeah, and I guess I'm wondering too, like, was there a moment where you realized, like, okay, like, I've really, like, forgiven and, like, let this go, kind of, you know, just taking this off? Or do you feel like it's kind of like just a like, you just are able to, like, because I don't know if there's a moment or, like, was there a particular age where you say, "You know what?"
There's moments. So every moment in life is simultaneously connected to them all. So I gave you the memory of the traumatic experience when I was 11,
Yeah.
and a bunch of things happened and accumulated through life.
Mm.
And then I gave you the other lost experience when I was 19
Yeah.
after high school, and I felt really lost.
Yes.
I think the next moment is when I really started to take my mental health and my well-being and shifting to the other side was when I was 26.
Mm.
You know, I always believed in God. I always had a strong faith.
Mhm.
My father was 5% nation, so I had a lot of that type of information growing up. My
Mhm.
mother was Christian,
Okay.
you know, so I had a lot of that information growing up, just praying. And like I texted my mother the other day because I remember I used to be like 8 years old and we used to say our prayers
Yeah.
every day,
Yeah.
every night before bed. And I remember one night I didn't say my prayers and I thought I wasn't going to wake up because I truly believed that prayer
Yeah.
was waking me up in the morning. As a kid, when you're a
Wow.
kid,
Yeah,
you know, your mom say your prayers,
for
say your
sure.
prayers. So I would go in my mother's room every night to say my prayers. And I remember this one night, I'm like, I didn't say my prayers.
Mm.
God ain't gonna wake me up, you know. So I always had that type of faith. And then just a curiosity, you know, just studying Islam, studying different religions and just seeing the language and the imprint of God's communication throughout the different religions,
Yeah.
you know, just being obedient, like, okay, I see why they believe this. I
Mhm.
see why, just accumulating, being a seeker of knowledge and just wanting to advance and grow. So I've had that. But back when I was 26,
Yeah.
you know, I slipped again.
Mm.
I'm not perfect. I slipped, you know, just being outside too much, indulging, drinking,
Mhm.
doing a bunch of things that doesn't stand with my purpose of life.
Yeah.
So when I was 26, I remember this so vividly because I see with my eyes, I can see the things around us, but I live with my insight, which means I can always visualize the future or a
Yeah.
better day.
Yeah.
At 26, I remember having no vision,
Mm.
like not eyesight, but no insight.
Mm.
I couldn't see. I couldn't
Right.
see. I couldn't. It was like a disconnection,
For sure.
and I was so depressed. I was so stressed. I was so anxious, and it brought me to tears many nights. Also, just really praying and trying to find my way back,
Mhm.
returning to this insight. And I remember just calling out, like, if I can see again,
Mm.
I will fully live in my purpose.
Mm.
I will put everything aside.
Mhm.
I will no longer double dutch. You know, I won't go to the environments. No longer, I will fully be in service.
For sure.
You know, and I felt like I was reborn again.
Mm.
And that's when I used to live by the mantra, I surrender my sight to see through God's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I just fully started taking all of this real serious.
Yeah.
In a way of like just growth.
Yeah.
You know, anything that's not conducive to my health, my well-being, or my evolution, I don't need to be a part. That's conversation, that's people, that's places, that's things.
For sure.
So I increase my faith, I increase my growth,
Mm-hmm.
and I minimize my tolerance.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you for sharing that. And I feel like that's so deep. And you know what's funny? I feel like I've heard like similar, like just in different, like in men's lives specifically, there's always like a moment where it's
Yeah.
like a crossroads. Like you have to make a
Yeah,
decision.
it was scary.
Yeah.
And I'm talking calm about it, but I was in the basement. I was isolated. I was afraid. I was scared.
Yeah.
And then I didn't speak to nobody. And then, you know, I've had moments in my life where I was depressed and I felt stressed and I felt low.
Yeah.
But I would do the escape tools. I go to the bar. I go out with my friends.
Yeah.
I drain it out.
Yeah.
But this time was too vivid. This time was get it together. Get it right.
Yeah.
It was like no drinking, no none of this stuff. No, get it right. And I started to increase my faith. I started to meditate. From that day, since 26 years old, I meditated every day. I don't miss a day of meditation.
Wow.
I don't miss a day of solitude, even if it's for 1 minute.
Yeah.
You know, because it was scary. Like I always see a better way. Like I can always visualize a better way. So that moment when I didn't have no insight, I couldn't feel that connection. I couldn't feel that channel. It was truly scary.
Yeah.
You know? And this is also my first time like saying it publicly.
Yeah.
I told people privately, but yeah.
For sure.
It was a scary time. And also right after I had opened my first juice bar. So it was around that time I just really
I saw that.
I wanted to get on the other side.
Yeah.
Of just really being righteous, being peaceful, being clean.
Yep.
Being honest. You know, a lot of times we say good things and we see good things, but we still live with that contentment or that negativity. And like, no, being exactly who I say I am.
Yeah.
And I wanted to strive to be that.
Yeah. That's deep. I love it. No, thank you.
And just doing the work every day, you know. So just being a student of different speakers, being a student of different practices and just truly learning, not having it figured out, not always knowing it, just like there's always this room for improvement.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love it. And would you say now that you practice a particular faith, or do you feel like you just are more like just spiritual?
I'm still seeking. Sometimes I watch like things on Islam. Sometimes I watch Christians. Meditate, you know, so I won't say that I have a particular faith that's bound to religion.
Yeah.
But I believe in God.
For sure. Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
I'd be like, how can you not?
I'm not denouncing it.
Never.
I'm not denouncing it. And God is everything.
Yeah.
God is expressing through us all, whatever that language or religion of communication is.
Exactly.
There's this higher source, you know, and I don't think we have enough time to be in the war of separation of which one is right, which one is wrong. If it's purifying a man's heart and a woman's heart and their mind and making them a better person, I think you should stick with that.
For sure.
You know?
Yep.
And whatever allows you to grow.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. Okay. Ooh, that was good, y'all. Okay, so I guess we'll switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
I definitely want to just talk about, you know, because we of course started off with, and we didn't even do our check-in, which is okay because we just got right into the stuff.
That's
but
cool. We can always do the check-in if you want to do the check-in.
Yeah, just to see how, because I feel like the work that like you do, and I do too, right? Y'all know what I do
Yeah.
already. I see clients. I'm a therapist full time. And I feel like my brain, where mental health is concerned, it doesn't turn off because I just feel like that's a part of, like, as we talked about purpose, I feel like that's part of my purpose. Like, I feel like God put it on my heart very early to want to be in this field. Like, 7th grade was the
Yeah.
first time I said I want to be I think I said psychologist at that time. And I didn't know nothing in 7th grade to even say that, right? But my life kind of followed that path. And so I do want to even get into like purpose with you
I
too.
think same.
Yeah.
Before I was in this position, I was in this position.
Yeah.
Like even when I was
Mm-hmm.
young, I was always looked upon in a leadership role
Yeah.
by my friends,
Yes.
my community, and
Mm-hmm.
just certain things. So I think that was
Yeah.
a gift that people seen in me,
Mm-hmm.
and also a gift that I used to ignore. When I was a child, I remember saying like, no, we can't do that. That's wrong. But I
Mm.
also remember like trying to cover that gift or being afraid to be smart or know what's wrong or
Yeah.
having that answer. So when everybody's doing the stupid fun things, I
Yeah.
want to participate.
Mm.
But once you know better, you're consciously accountable for that.
Yep.
And that bothered me a lot when I was young
Yep.
because I just knew better.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to do the ignorant stuff
Mm-hmm.
too. Sometimes I went
Mm-hmm.
against, and sometimes I
Yeah.
went against my knowing and
Yeah.
just and got penalized for it.
For sure.
But ultimately, like even when I was young, I just always had a gift of, I guess, leadership,
Yeah.
but leadership only knowing not to lead everybody, but just knowing what to follow.
Mm.
This may be a better option.
Yep.
We should do this. And not
Absolutely.
saying it was always 100% right, but just if I could reflect back when I was young,
Yeah.
I always had that role of leadership. Even when I was in high school, I was captain of the basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
Just not knowing, but people always seeing that, like,
Yes.
okay, you that one. Like even growing up in the projects, my position a lot of times, the older people or the older ladies will always say, like, you much better than like the young people over
Mm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
But I also had a young past to where like, oh, I don't like you. You fight too much.
Mm.
I've had that to
Right.
where I was really aggressive, really disruptive. I've had that, but most of the time, people seen more in me
Yeah.
than I seen in myself at times,
For sure.
and I just really started to lean into that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think I love that. I think like
Mhm.
just being able, like other people being able to see the light, and you may even see it, but ignore it.
Yeah,
I feel like I be going through that too sometimes. Even
most
as
of
an
the time
adult,
I ignore it.
even as an adult, I'll be like,
Survivor's guilt. Survivor's guilt had me in a
mm-hmm.
headlock for a while.
Mm.
Cause naturally I was wired like that. Like growing up in my house, my mother, not only did my mother take care of her children, despite her life, her reality, and all of the things she had to overcome,
Yeah.
there was always another guest, whether that was a cousin, whether that
Mm.
was a runaway.
Yeah.
My mother, I had that welcoming house.
Got it.
So I was raised in that community of take care
For
of the
sure.
family no matter what. My grandmother the same way,
Yeah.
so me, I was kind of, it was kind of encoded in my DNA
Yep.
until I had to realize some people just don't want to change,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or some people are not ready to change. I thought because I seen change need to happen now, and I have to bring everybody.
Right.
And my mother would always tell me, everybody can't go where you going, and that was a hard pill to swallow
For sure.
because you want this, you want it
Yeah.
to be like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's so true. I feel like I hold to that now. Like I sometimes have to remind myself of that too because um I feel like I'm similar. Like I have a mixed bag of people in my life. Love them all,
Mhm.
right? In the same way, but for different reasons. And I think sometimes I even have to remind myself that I can't do some of that work. Like when we're talking about like mental health and wellness and stuff, do some of that work of just improving and being better. People got to get there on their own.
Yeah.
Like I always like I have those conversations often where it's like I may be at a particular place and then be able to see like this person is struggling in this area and I can probably help them, but based on like patterns, it's like
Yeah.
they don't necessarily want to be helped, and some people like the patterns that they're in.
And you fall in love with those
Mhm.
habitual habits, and it
Yeah.
becomes a recognizable identity to you.
Mm-hmm.
So even when I was shedding, and even when I started to move more on the version of myself, my truest nature,
Yeah.
you start to lose those habits.
Yeah.
And when you lose those habits, people start to lose recognition of you. Like, who is this person? It's like, no, I'm still me.
It's me.
But no, it's just that you're not doing what I recognize you
Yeah.
for. So it becomes unrecognizable. And we're all on a journey, so
Yeah.
it's really inspiring.
Yes.
And I think what's most important for me was not saying what I should be doing, but demonstrating it. I think demonstration, right? Seeing the example.
Yeah.
We see the problem. I didn't have to leave my projects to see the problem.
Yeah.
It met me right soon as I came out.
For sure.
So we need to see the demonstration.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so important for me to demonstrate and be who I am.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Gems all around. Yeah. Okay. And so like, I guess a question that I have, right? You know what? Nope. We're gonna switch gears again because I just lost for some reason I just lost my train of thought.
So good.
I'm sorry.
So good.
Yes. Listen, I went out yesterday. It's Memorial Day weekend. I'm sorry.
It's nice. It's nice. Enjoy yourself.
Enjoy. Yes. But yes, okay, it's back. It came back. So therapy was the question, right? Because I feel like we debriefed about that a little bit one day after the run club, which I want us to get into after. Because the run club has been just so
family. It's just
listen, it's been so refreshing for me. And it's like I didn't expect this at all. I'm telling you that now. Like I came like, well, we'll get into it after. But first, I want to talk about therapy a little bit because I feel like there's a lot of just as we're talking about, like you being a Black man, of course, and there's a lot of stigma still associated, not even with Black men, everyone. There's still stigma with therapy for like the world, I think, but like particularly with Black men, they find this idea that like finding therapy in other things, right? Which I get that, right? But I always argue like doing those other things are great, but isn't necessarily a substitute for that actual like talking to a professional who could provide you with certain things that you wouldn't get elsewhere, right? So like what would you say to that? How do you feel about therapy?
I'm for it. There's stigmas to everything,
Yeah.
right? Let me just give you an example, right? There's good food, there's bad food.
Yeah.
We still have to eat.
Right.
Now, as individuals, you have to decipher what you put into your body
Yeah.
that works for you, right? So I say that to say there's good therapists, there's bad therapists. But we can't not decipher the quality of therapy, right? Therapy is basically professional help
Yeah.
to help you identify what may be wrong.
Right.
To seek out that problem, now laying on the table some solutions or some strategies,
right,
so that you can do the work. It's like a coach. It's just professional help.
Yeah.
If you see, especially if you see that, right, something is happening in your life and you want to get past this.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to get past this, then therapy may not be the right thing for you, right? Because a therapist's job is, I think, on both sides, as a client and as a therapist,
Yeah.
you don't fix nobody.
Exactly.
So that concept of I'm coming to you to get fixes, we lost already.
Absolutely.
When I come to you, I'm seeking out professional help. I have this problem.
Yeah.
I've noticed that this problem keeps occurring in my life. Now, as a therapist and professional help, hey, look, you should try this. Strategize. Come back next week.
Yeah.
Do X, Y, whatever strategy, whatever you draw up or whatever strategy you come up with.
Yeah.
But ultimately, as individuals, you have to do the work.
Yeah.
So I don't. There's always going to be knock. It's going to be because we're in an informative time.
Yeah.
So there's good information, there's bad information.
Mm-hmm.
As individuals, I think what's most important is that we have discernment.
Mm-hmm.
Is the concept of therapy as it just being professional help to help you strategize to get to a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
That's a good concept.
Yeah.
If that's therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the individual or the therapist, good therapist, bad therapist, the quality, all of that is other stuff.
Yeah.
As individuals, we just have to be discernment. It's like the food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I use that as an analogy, right? There's healthy food, there's garbage food.
Yeah.
But as individuals, we have to have discernment to what will help our body.
For sure.
So I'm not against therapy.
Yeah.
I actually took therapy, and it's many qualities of therapy. And it really depends on the mental state of a person, and it depends on how damaged, how traumatized, or how anxious, or how all of this is professional help that it's important that you seek out.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody may not be at the same level, right?
Yeah.
We have these different levels, but we really can't see where we are mentally.
Yeah.
Because you can't see the mind.
For sure.
So like I may be good, like, no, don't worry about it. Here, just go do X, Y, Z.
Mm-hmm.
And you may need it some real help.
Yeah.
Outside of don't worry about it, because you really never know where somebody's at mentally.
Yeah.
So I think it's the time we in.
Yeah.
Everybody can speak on topics, unprofessional, professional, and then we miss the message. We always miss the truth.
Yeah.
Defending a point. And I think that's because of the nature of how we was raised.
Yeah.
Pick a side.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no. Pick the truth.
Yeah.
The truth don't have no side. Is it a truthful practice? Then I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Is it a truthful thing?
Yeah.
Then I think it's great. As individuals, we need toolboxes, right? Sometimes you may have to use a flathead screwdriver. Sometimes you may have to use a four-corner screwdriver, a hammer, a wrench. That's the toolbox.
Yeah.
Based on the circumstance or the experience or whatever it is you're applying.
Yeah.
So sometimes for me, right, the toolbox, right, I may have to talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I may have to seek out professional help.
Yeah.
Or I may be good from meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Or I may run. But that's just the toolbox.
For sure.
Just noticing how to utilize the toolbox.
Yeah.
So I'm not against it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think primarily as Black people,
Yeah.
our position from years, all the traumatic experiences, all the oppression, all of the neglect. Some things we deal with, right? You spoke about trauma, right? We go through our own traumatic experience, right? But we all are born and coded with some trauma, right? Some things we're just born with. Sometimes we're feeling things that's based on the lives before us because of our DNA coding.
Yes.
So we're born with trauma.
Ooh, let's talk about that.
So ultimately, we need a lot of tools, techniques that's healthy, that's mindful, that allows us to disarm and reclaim and elevate.
Yes.
Versus fight, disengage, neglect. Right? So I think it's important that you don't be afraid to seek out help, but also be skillful enough and willful enough to have some discernment.
Yeah.
It's like if I hit you up on Instagram and I'm trying to sell something and I cash app you and I never send the order, it was your job to look to see, oh, have you ever sold something? Do you have a site?
Credential, yeah.
Yeah, that's our job to elevate that. But if we get God, you get God the first time, you won't get God the second time.
Yeah.
But even in that world, right, there's going to be some professional therapists that don't care. And then there's going to be some professional therapists that do care.
Yes.
So all that means is the individual have to have discernment. You have to be aware. And we can't blame the practice.
Right. Yeah. Like I think good point. Absolutely love that. I think not blaming the practice, in the overall like profession, right? Because then it's like the mental health profession, I feel like, becomes like, this is not,
Yeah.
and I don't even know that it's about that for me. For me, I just feel like whatever way you feel most like fed, I feel like go with that, right? Because I feel like, especially, I feel like with communities of color, getting creative is necessary, because being told like this is the way, I just feel like doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
Like me working in the field, I know that it works because I'm talking to people every day and seeing their lives transformed by it, right? But somebody who's not in the field, knows nothing about therapy, they're just like, you could just be telling me
Yeah.
whatever, right? So I feel like if you're doing things, meditative practices, you're running and you're feeling like you're getting what you need, I always say those things absolutely do work, because me joining the run club has
Yeah.
changed me in
And I
in
think
ways.
it's like I explained to a lot of the children in
Yeah.
the program I'm dealing with. It's visualization and image, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we don't see enough, we don't think is for us.
Yeah.
So a lot of therapeutic spaces have been white dominated. A
Yeah.
lot of yoga and wellness spaces is whitely dominated.
Mm-hmm.
And those concepts can sometimes defer us, right?
Yeah.
Versus in trauma experiences, or how we cater to some things.
Yeah.
So we do have to be mindful of that. But ultimately, as people, you know, whether we prescribe as color, black, or other, we have to equip our toolbox
Yeah.
and evolve and grow
Mm-hmm.
if we want to,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
because there's a space to do other.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that other. But just speaking to those that want to evolve, that want to grow, that want to be the best version of themselves,
Yeah.
you're going to have to seek things beyond your circumstances and your knowing.
For
In
sure.
order for us to become something we've never been,
Yeah.
we have to do things we've never done.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times those things are scary.
Yeah.
Those things become vulnerable. And also we're going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay, because in that process we learn and we grow
Yeah.
and we adjust. And what's most important is, if we keep evolving, we change the template of demonstration for those that's coming up after us.
Yeah.
So that's what's important.
Yeah.
What was dangerous is, in the hood, you see the same cycle. You see people get old, you see people die. You see this constant cycle
Same thing. Yeah.
of destruction,
Yeah.
and you normalize that, and
Mm-hmm.
you think it's okay. And at some point, you're like, nah, we wasn't all here sent to be stressed out,
Yeah.
to be traumatized,
For sure.
to be just abusive. It's time to heal. It's time to love again. It's time to be at peace.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to grow. It's time to connect, communicate. How could we come together and work? And if we can't come together and work, how could I respect you and disagree with you without it being offensive or being violent? Like, nah, I don't agree with that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's okay.
For sure.
But ultimately still having respect, like, nah, that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not for me.
Yeah.
Not like F what you doing. That's
Oh yeah.
wrong.
Oh
You
no,
gotta have.
I've gotten that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm used at this point, I'm used to it, because it happens. And unfortunately, a lot of times when it does happen, at least from the way I've experienced it, it's been from my own community. So that's why sometimes it's like, it can be hurtful sometimes, but I think I know why that's there. I know why it's there. I understand it. And I don't take it, I don't internalize it.
Can't.
You can't.
It's not. Because I think the moment we take it personal, it blurs our vision.
Yeah.
So when those that, because even myself, right, we're not perfect. I may have said some things that hurt some people.
Mm-hmm.
I may have said some things that I had to apologize for. And
Yeah.
I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm evolving.
Yeah.
But when those say things that we love, right? Like people say things, like it was sometimes people said some things that you love and you can't take it personal because they're not demonstrating from a place of love, only a place of hurt. So it's not about them, right? What I say is more a reflection of me than about you.
Right.
I'm just bleeding on you. And if you
Absolutely.
have, and that's work and that's
Yeah.
skills and that takes development to understand that people are speaking more about themselves than they're speaking about you.
For sure.
And when you know that, it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of that book, one of my favorite books I'm reading with in the juveniles, the Four Agreements. Don't
Mm.
take nothing personal.
Let's talk
And
about
and
that.
that's and that's like
Yes.
that's hard.
Yeah.
Especially when like you're saying it about me, but it's like, no, you're not saying it about me.
Mhm.
You're saying it about your concept and your version of me, which is you.
Mm. Steep.
So it's a practice, but don't take things personal. Be
Mhm.
impeccable with your words.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Ooh, it's gems all around this this
Yeah.
this this episode, okay? And yeah, let's talk about that, right? Now we really switching gears, right? The juveniles. How did you get into that working with them, and how's that been going for you? Like what are some of the like key things with working with them?
So how did I get into that? Like I told you, I've been developing wellness programs, yoga, meditation,
Yeah.
and mindfulness for the last 13 years.
Mhm.
So the juvenile I'm also a wellness consultant. So
Yeah.
the juvenile program has just been the most consistent. I've been in and out of different schools,
Mhm.
but I've had the luxury to be working with them over the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And there's two. There's two of like what's coming to mind. I'm very hopeful because I believe there's always a way, and also sadden, disappointment, and yeah, just really disappointed because the template of destruction
Yeah.
that exists in some of these children
Mhm.
before they view their true version of themselves is dangerous and detrimental to their lives
Yeah.
because they're willing to lose it now before they see.
Yeah.
But I understand because of how the environments are structured, right?
Mhm.
When I speak to them, I know from their zip codes, you've seen something.
Mm.
What I've known is innocence, right? When you grow up in these environments, every kid's innocent. Most of us start out pure,
Yeah.
loving, kind. We see something.
Mhm.
Then not only do we see something, that something starts to reaffirm itself daily.
Mm.
Now we see it daily,
Mhm.
every day, and every day.
Yeah.
So maybe we had a dream or maybe we had hope, but eventually we get contaminated
Mm.
and it becomes hard not to participate.
Right.
And then eventually once you participate, you get status,
Mm.
ignorant status. So now I'm known for destruction and I like that feeling
For sure.
and I like to be known,
Mhm.
because it's all just like an illusion,
Yeah.
you know. We all just want to really feel love,
Yeah.
want to feel seen,
For sure.
want to feel heard.
Mhm.
And sometimes in destruction, the illusion of that, you feel seen,
Yeah.
you feel heard, people are talking about you because you're doing things.
Mhm.
But the end goal, the end becomes cage, it becomes ground. So that's not evolution.
Right.
Evolution is fruitful. The end is it opens up. Now you can provide opportunities for so many more people.
Mhm.
You can allow so many more people to come through this funnel. In destruction, you just become casualties. So it's hopeful. I love it because I don't I don't look at them based on what they want me to look at them as.
Yeah.
See your innocence
Right.
because your innocence is reflected in my innocence.
Mm.
So like every time I go in a facility, and I say a little prayer, it's like if I can't get them with my words, allow God to get them from me just being in their presence.
Right.
So it's not about people don't really care much about what you know, but how much you care.
Mm.
So just showing up and being present with them,
Yes.
allow the opening into their hearts, allow the opening to communicate with them on
Yeah.
some levels. And then some days is bad,
For
some
sure.
days is good. But overall, I'm just grateful to be used in that way,
Mhm.
until it transitioned to something else.
Mhm. No, I love that.
Mhm.
I love that. No, thank you
No problem.
for sharing that. I think, and I was just checking time. I'm like, "Are we
We good,
okay?
we
We
good.
okay?" Yeah, no, but I think, I love everything you're doing. I think I'm like, there's so much more questions. There's so many things like,
Yeah, we're gonna
um
have to part to it.
exactly.
Yeah,
We might have to, okay? If you're
yeah.
open for that, because I think there's so much more that people can take away. And I guess before we wind down and end, I definitely wanted to like, let one of the last things that we talk about be the run club, which is how we met.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and like let's talk about it. Like I could talk about it all day because I know my friends. They're like, "Girl, you talk about this run club every." Like I talk about it so often, and of course I'm trying to recruit my friends. Like, come.
Yeah, we're gonna bring them to the run because just on a scientific and a therapeutic level, right? Running with community for 30 minutes serves as an antidepressant. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the benefits that's really good. That quality
Yeah.
of being in a space, an open space, a safe space,
Yeah.
a non-pressure space
Mm-hmm.
to just grow, to
Yeah.
be your best, that feels really good.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not about the accolades or just the races is just another community.
For sure.
But it's about just being in that space
Yeah.
to just grow. It feels tremendous.
Mm.
And I think you have to, in order to evolve, you gotta replace the spaces. I don't go to clubs much,
Yeah.
but I'm in that group space.
For
I'm at the
sure.
run club
Yeah.
every week.
Yeah.
I'm at a different run. So I'm in community,
Yes.
So I think community is always important
Mm-hmm.
to evolve. But
Yeah.
just to take it back before the club, right?
Mm-hmm.
How I got into running was
Mm-hmm.
around that 26
Yes.
time, and I was in C, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can cry, you can weep, but you still have to do the work.
Yeah.
Now, once you figured out you want to change, you have to find the tools and you have to apply yourself and see what works.
Yeah.
So for me, running, I always been an athlete. I always exercise.
Mm-hmm.
But around this time, about 4 to 5 years ago, I just started like saying to myself, what will happen if I run 7 miles, 8 miles? And then what it was doing for me mentally,
Yeah.
like just feeling depression or frustration after a long run, that frustration was gone.
Mm.
All of these things we think is real that just occupies our
Yeah.
mental space,
Yes.
we can alleviate them.
For
We
sure.
could break them down
Yep.
and we could allow them to dissipate. So I was just running. It was a point in time I was running 10 miles every day
Wow.
just because of that mental feeling. I was able to organize my mental cabinet,
Yeah.
get my thoughts in alignment, get my
Mhm.
emotions in alignment, and start to plan and seek and visualize things that I can do outside of running, whether that's with the juice bar, whether that's writing a book.
Yeah.
So I started to it was like a one-on-one meeting
Yeah.
daily that I was having. That was a non-negotiable. Get out there and run.
Yeah.
And then eventually Rail had seen me he I see you be running 10 miles. He hit me up. He invited me to a Nike marathon training
Nice.
in the city. So me and him, we started to go out there and it changed my mind on community.
Mm.
So once again, running, white dominant space,
Yeah.
but still community.
Yeah.
I'm observant and I'm aware. Every morning, 8 a.m., 500 people meeting up
Mm-hmm.
just to go on a run
Yeah.
and just have community conversation, build, develop, network, and just it feels good.
Yeah.
So when that ended, we nah, we got to do this. Me and him, we started running together. We having real conversations in a run. We talking about personal things we want to achieve, how we can grow, how we can succeed,
Yeah.
things we got to put down, because he's from another environment, right? I'm from Baisley, from Far Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Different environments, same circumstances.
Yes. Yeah.
So just really
I used to work in Far Rock.
yeah, how do we
Definitely.
put this behind us and how do we elevate and build true community?
Yeah.
And that's what we just started doing with the run club.
Yeah.
Demonstrating, showing up, and just watching it thrive. It was 2 people, 3 people, 10 people, 20 people. And it's just a beautiful community.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful feeling and it's safe. So the first level of building is always build the community, with a foundation that's
Yeah.
great.
Yes.
Principles, encouraging, inspiring.
Yes.
Now you build on top of that community to where you can network and you can create opportunities for other individuals
Yeah.
so that they can not only do things, but you could just see something in yourself, right? Like when you run that race, like I didn't know I could do that. Now that transforms into everything. Now
Yeah.
you start thinking all the things we're afraid of. Because God is beautiful, right? Like I don't know for most of us, but for me, you get these ideas.
Yeah.
You get these insights of, hey Mo, this is what you could do next.
For sure.
And then you think about it, oh, what they gonna think about it? Oh, I don't have enough finance. You start to trick yourself out of that insight, and then eventually you don't respond to that.
Yes.
But the running is the reminder that we can do anything. We can make anything possible in this life. We can create, we can build.
Yeah.
And the community support is to show that.
Yeah.
You know, so just love it. I love that space.
No, me too. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank y'all for like creating it, right? Because
But it's us.
Yeah.
You know, it's us. And I don't like to be a pedestal. It's us.
Got you.
It's all of us that pour in and just come
Yeah.
and be honest. And it's just the energy. It's just a space where like not just me.
Yeah.
Everybody's just in a growth, like just want better. You can see it in people's eyes. You can see it in people's conversation. 90% of that club just want better.
Yep.
Just want better. Just want to grow. It ain't about no accolades. It ain't about being the fastest in the marathon. I just want to be better. I didn't even know I wanted. I didn't even know I was a runner.
Right.
I didn't even know. And just using the passion to develop purpose, to create community, and just being used in another way to build community so that we can grow, evolve, develop.
Yeah.
And it's important that people see that.
Yeah.
So we can't keep using the excuse that it's a better life for us.
Yeah.
We don't have to systematically stay in the same position.
Right.
I don't care what the stats say. We're living proof.
Yeah.
If the stats was real, and if the stats, not saying that the stats are not real, but if it was up to the stats, we wouldn't be here on these couches recording this podcast. You understand? Like I could just use my grandfather as an example. My great grandfather, my grandmother's father.
Yeah.
You know, he went to World War I. He was in a war. He was in combat. He made it back out of combat. He spent most of his time in the South around 1930s, early 1900s. He was born in the 1800s. Who can imagine what he had to endure at his mental health?
Right.
Or his mental capacity, not even having the access.
Right.
Not even being able to do this. But still providing for his family, still owning a farm, still doing certain things.
Yeah.
You know, so there's not much complaining I can do in this position right now, because if it was up to stats, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. For sure.
And we didn't have to go through what those giants had to go through before us. So we have to step up to the plate, and we have to make a better way so those that's coming after us can really grow and evolve and just take the information.
Yeah.
Right? So what I love about the space too, the wellness, the advocacy, and the mental health is like, we've been so conditioned to dominate entertainment spaces.
Yes.
That it's important for us to get into informative, educational spaces, because
exactly,
on one side, who experienced the trauma like us?
Right.
So we have to be on the other side of that. The practices, the tools, the mindset. And this is not to discredit anybody else's experiences.
Of course not.
But it's to open us up into moving and pivoting into these spaces.
Yeah.
Because we can dominate these spaces as well. Right?
Absolutely.
We're not just entertainers.
Right.
We're not just rappers.
Exactly.
We're educators. We're leaders.
Yeah.
We're thought-provoking people. And we don't have to minimize or bend to what society wants us to be. Because society didn't create us, God did. And we have to maximize who we are through purpose, through passion,
Yeah.
through education.
Absolutely.
It's just time.
Period. No, I love that. Thank you so much. I'm like, first of all, we might have to do a part 2 because there's so many things that like I feel like we didn't get to. Like I wanted to talk to you about the juice bar, the book, all
Yeah.
like more things. So maybe we could discuss part 2, maybe, right?
Yeah, we could do a part 2.
Yeah.
And all of those was extensions. We could lead on it. All of those was extensions of me just wanting to grow,
Yeah.
develop, and help, and utilizing my mind and not being afraid. Right.
Yeah.
When I opened the juice bar in my community, you know, it was me and my brothers,
Mhm.
and I opened it because I really wanted the community to have access to something beyond what they know.
Yeah.
I was able to go to different communities. I was able to travel. I was able to see certain things. I viewed the landscape. I'm like, it's no healthy food over here.
Mm.
You understand? So I wanted to provide that for the environment, but eventually I had to close it down because of the attachment to the past.
Mm.
People that had no input on the business, but on the outside looking in, attaching themselves to the business. Too much negative connotations around it. So really having to move out of that space as well so that I won't be contaminated, so that I can grow and I can evolve, so that I can transform community in a healthy way.
For sure.
You know?
Absolutely. Definitely.
And,
I want to expound further for sure. I'm like,
yeah.
because I was doing my research before this
Yeah.
episode and I saw that. I was like, first of all, you even started a podcast
Yeah,
at one point. I'm like, we go, this part 1, right? We're going to do part 2.
I was hitting on a bunch of spaces. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same with the book. Yeah, we could save it. And I wrote the book too. The name of the book is Within.
Mhm.
Freedom is an inside job.
Yeah.
And it's another piece of just trying to provoke thought.
Yeah.
Give tools to push us in a better way.
Mhm.
Like the first chapter 1 is Who Am I?
Yeah.
I think that's primary in all of us, understanding who we are in this position.
Mhm.
You know, chapter 2 is acceptance, regardless of our reality or regardless of what we're going through, learning to accept what is, to move forward. Chapter 3, letting go.
Yep.
That was the one.
Mhm.
You know, learning to forgive, learning to let go. These are the tools and the commandments that we need to evolve. And just chapter 4, vibrational being.
Yeah.
You know, understanding energy on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Through language, through vibration, through communication, you know, and then it just moved to different mindfulness activities. And then it ends with the power of now. No, that's chapter 6 now, just understanding time, presence. And then the last chapter is freedom of the external field. You know, so it was a book that I was afraid to put it out. You know, I wrote it when I was 27. I think I published it 2 years ago. But I took myself out. Am I good enough to put out a book? Am I that? Just those thoughts.
Yeah.
And when I realized I was getting those thoughts, the only way to defeat those thoughts is to do it. So now those thoughts are not strong enough. So I published a book and put it out.
Yeah.
And it landed where it needed to land and had a great response, great feedback. Really insightful and helpful. Just I was really inspired by the people that bought it, the people that engaged, the messages. You know, like my DM is like a free consultant.
Listen.
Yeah, like, you know, but I'm grateful. You know, sometimes, like you said, how's my mental health?
Yep.
I always find a way to be grateful. Sometimes I exhaust myself.
Yeah.
Just being exhausted in the work, thinking you gotta do, you know, like that, never turning it off.
Yeah.
So just finding ways to
Gotta
turn
find
it off.
a way to do it.
Yeah, find a way to turn it off,
Yeah.
you know, because I'm no better than nobody. I experienced them all. Deep hopelessness, trauma, depression, loss, sadness, fear.
Yeah.
Fear of failing, fear of becoming, fear of losing. You know, I just really explored emotions, and we all go through it. I don't know nobody that's in pursuit of their best version or greatness that doesn't go through it.
Right.
And that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me inspired. And that's what keeps me learning, developing. You know, like I'll watch podcasts all day just to sharpen up how I speak, my tonality, make sure I'm on point, just so that I could be better,
Yeah.
so that I can grow and so that the messages can land exactly where they need to land and help who they need to help and
Yes.
keep moving forward.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, you're doing great, okay? You're doing
Likewise,
Thank
it's
you.
great work. It's important work.
Yeah.
It's important work. It's not easy work,
Mm-mm.
but it's important.
Mhm.
Because you may not. Well, let me speak personally. We may not be where we think we deserve, we need to be,
Mhm.
but we are always exactly where we need to be. And you sleep good at night,
Oh, for sure.
when you know that you're in pursuit of a better version of yourself, you're honest, you're living in purpose, you're living by principles.
Yeah.
It allows a peaceful sleep at night.
Mhm.
You understand?
Absolutely.
Not saying that them negative thoughts, those negative, all of that, because after you experience trauma, it's not the trauma that it's not the traumatic circumstance. It's kind of that residue.
Yeah.
Like you gotta be able to clean the residue out,
Yes.
because if you don't, you start getting that aggression. So like
Mhm.
once you become negative in your mind, boom, boom, it's like a magnet.
Mhm.
All of the thoughts, all of the piles. So it's important that you have a toolbox to say like, okay, I know that I'm frustrated. Let
Mhm.
me do this before I start to bleed on people, before I engage in a circumstance that I may regret,
Yeah.
before I start being too reactive to impulse.
Right.
Taking a moment,
Mhm.
breathing,
Yep.
and getting back what matters most. Like I said, if it's
Mhm.
not conducive to our health, our growth, our well being, we don't need to
You
participate.
don't need it. Yep.
Conversation, people, places, things.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was so
It's beautiful.
good. Yeah, I love this conversation. I definitely want to do a part 2 because there's a lot we didn't get to. Even you being a family man and having a wife and children, like we didn't get into none of
You
that.
ain't get
We'll do a part 2.
that's I love that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just that's that.
We
Like I just took my daughter and my son to the movies, and
Mhm.
that's the highlight,
Yeah.
That's the highlight of the weekend, just being there,
Yeah.
growing, being a demonstration, like having the freedom to even like when I had just did an event at a high school, I bring my daughter,
Yeah.
just for her to see me in this life, for her to see
Mhm.
me at work, for her to not understand it, but just to see this
Yeah.
and let her process that, whatever that means.
Right.
But being the best version of myself,
Mhm.
just for myself, for my family,
Yep.
and just growing and evolving. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
It's a beautiful
that's
thing.
we didn't get to it. It's
Yeah.
important. That topic's important.
Telling you. I'll have a whole probably like,
Yeah.
rundown for us for a part 2 and we could talk about it like later on. But I appreciate you for everything you
Thank
shared
you. I'm
today.
grateful
Yeah.
for being here.
No, of
Peace.
course. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And anything like people should look out for, like anything you have coming up or like you want people to tune into just with, because
Yeah,
you
you
have a
can
platform as well
yeah,
where
you can
you
follow me at King Jaytaun. I
Mhm.
also teach daily, twice a week in Queens. So you could all of the information will be on my platform. It's called Yoga Therapy. It's a beautiful class.
Mhm.
So just follow me, look out for more wellness initiatives, just meditation practices and breath work.
Yeah.
Also just developing things that can be helpful, thought provoking, and transformative to our reality.
Yeah. Mhm. That's it, guys. Your Mental
Peace.
Matters
Your
podcast.
mental matters. Even that name is fire.